Part 119. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuen Suya. Chapter 1181. Chapter 1181. You don't think I want to harm you, do you? It's not what I thought. What is it like? Wrong. I sneered and looked away. This mission is confidential. No one will know. How did you know about it? It was such a coincidence that you arrived and saved us that day. And the person in the elevator that day, the more I thought about it, the weirder it became. I thought, wrong. I stared at LAN 11 again. They must have been the people you sent there. Wrong. What are you talking about? Do you think I am following you on purpose? You don't think I want to harm you, do you? LAN 11 was anxious. She never thought that the person she had worked so hard to save would actually talk to her with such a sharp look and such a suspicious tone. I don't know what your purpose is, I just know that you are suspicious. Wrong. I said expressionlessly. I have good medical skills, but I am not a blue demon queen. I just accidentally saved a blue demon queen when I was studying abroad. I didn't even know that the blue demon queen she talked about was. What do you mean? I was studying medicine, and she knew she was going to die soon, so in order to thank me for saving her life, she taught me everything she had learned in her life, and this LAN 11 said. While talking, he took out an old medicine book from the medicine box. The cover was badly damaged, and many of the writings and pictures inside were blurred. She said this was an heirloom of their family. She was the only descendant of their family, but she didn't want the essence of their family to be lost like this. I happened to be studying pharmacology, so she gave this to me. I listened expressionlessly, and it was impossible to tell what his attitude and mood were at the moment. As for you asking me why I showed up so coincidentally, didn't you ask someone to tell me that you were here? LAN 11's words made Wrong. I confused. What do you mean? What do you mean I asked your people to tell you? When did he do such a thing? This kind of mission is confidential. Once it is leaked, it will easily lead to death, not to mention the mission failure. How could he possibly let someone tell LAN 11 that he was here? LAN 11 frowned and said in confusion, why not you? That's what the person who came to find me said. He said that you were in danger here and asked me to rescue you. It was that person who brought me here. Did you say who the person you are talking about is? Could it be that he and LAN 11 were both tricked by someone behind the scenes? It was really interesting. He wanted to know who that person was, why he did it, and what his intention was. He said he was one of your men, so I didn't ask any more questions. When I heard you were in danger, I followed him. Then where is he now? Wrong. I asked. LAN 11 shook his head, I don't know either. When I was brought there that day, there were corpses everywhere in the villa, and you fell into a pool of blood. I didn't think much and rushed over to save you. No, you know when that person is gone. Wrong. I lowered his eyes, thinking about something. Could it be that person did it? The so-called biological father who he has never met and has been hiding in the dark. This time, if LAN 11 hadn't come over, all of them would have died. But why did he calculate all this so accurately, or was it that some of them were secretly informing him? Requesting a monthly ticket. End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuen Suya. Chapter 1182. Chapter 1182. There are so many confidants. Wrong. Am I being taken advantage of? LAN 11 looked panicked. Wrong. I raised his eyes and looked at LAN 11's helpless face. After his severe questioning just now, her face turned pale with fright. If it is really being used, what if the person behind it is not good for Wrong. Wrong's expression softened a lot, and his tone became much gentler. I'm sorry LAN 11, I was a little excited just now and my tone was not very good, don't mind. LAN 11 raised the corners of his mouth, smiled lightly, and shook his head. It's okay, wrong CI. The mission you are performing now is very important and confidential. It is normal to be more vigilant. I can understand it. Wrong CI felt a little guilty. In any case, his life was saved by Lan 11, and he really shouldn't have spoken to her in that interrogating tone. Let me help you apply the medicine. Lan 11 asked about Wrong CI. Wrong CI nodded, and then unbuttoned his shirt. His honey-colored skin and tight muscles were full of wounds, which was really glaring to see. The old and new wounds were added together, and Lan 11 felt a sting in front of his eyes. What's wrong? Wrong CI asked when he saw that Lan 11 didn't move for a long time and kept staring at him. Lan 11 shook his head, said nothing, and quietly began to apply the medicine to Wrong CI. The whole process was very cautious. It may hurt a little, please bear with it. Lan 11 warned softly. Wrong CI nodded. He had never experienced any kind of pain since he was a child, and he had to survive a hail of bullets. No matter how painful it was, he felt numb. Wrong C's face was expressionless, and Lan 11's movements were gentle. From time to time, she looked up at Wrong Ci anxiously. She was worried, but Wrong Ci showed no emotion on his face. All right. Lan 11 was packing the medicine box, and with a casual glance, he saw a bright red scar on Lan 11's face. Wrong Ci reached out and held her wrist so fiercely. Why are you injured? Just as Lan 11 was about to say something, Wrong Ci had already pushed up Lan 11's sleeves and saw the devastation everywhere. The bright red spots on the fair skin are very dazzling. Judging from the condition of the wounds, they look like wounds from thorns. It's inevitable that you'll get a little injured when picking medicinal materials. I'll be fine, I just need to apply some medicine when I go back. Wrong Ci said nothing, but frowned tightly. He raised his eyes and looked straight at Lan 11, wanting to say something, but in the end he said nothing and watched Lan 11 leave. You have a good rest, don't exert force, don't get angry, and don't let the wound tear. Before Lan 11 left, he gave Wrong Ci some instructions. Wrong Ci lowered his head and listened silently, then nodded. After some time, Wrong Ci's injury was almost healed and he could get out of bed and move around normally. Lan 11 has been taking care of Wrong Ci and the others during this period. In fact, she wasn't very good at cooking at first, but for the sake of Wrong Ci, she kept learning. In addition, she was smart and learned things quickly, so it didn't take long for her to be able to cook a few decent dishes. Lan 11 was cooking for Wrong Ci and the others. Wrong Ci and the others were sitting on the sofa, watching TV boredly. Dao Feng turned around and glanced at the busy figures in the kitchen. Looking at Wrong Ci with a cold face on one side, he joked, "Brother Wrong, how come your life is so good and you have so many confidants?" Wrong Ci glanced at him, "It's just a friend, don't think so wildly." Dao Feng chuckled and said, "Brother Wrong, my brothers have noticed how much I have taken care of you during this period." End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yun Suya. Chapter 1183. Chapter 1183. Why do you keep guarding the Sanskrit sounds? That's right, Brother Wrong, I'm sorry to say that girls are so thin-skinned, but you, a grown man, can't you tell that? The lizard also intervened. Brother Wrong, you may not like what I say, Dao Feng continued, curling his lips. If Fanyan really wanted to live with you for the rest of her life, she would not leave. Her personality is the best for you. It's clear, she doesn't want to drag you down, and she won't come to you again for the rest of her life. Why do you bother to keep guarding her? Wrong Ci stared at him with a sharp look, and the volume of the blade became weaker and weaker, and finally fell silent. I will make the decision on my own affairs. His firm tone left no room for doubt. These few people were very sensible and didn't say a word more. After being silent for a while, Lan 11 came over with a sweet smile and called everyone to eat, and everyone got to the table. Lan 11 immediately noticed that everyone's expressions were not right. Lan 11 looked at everyone's expressions and asked, "What's wrong with you? Why do all of them have dark faces?" "Fine." Rong Si answered quickly, then looked at everyone, "Let's eat." Everyone sighed, calmed down their emotions, and began to feast. After eating for a while, Rong Si mentioned it intentionally or unintentionally, "Lan 11, thank you very much for your care during this period. You saved our lives all by yourself. If you need any help in the future, just ask us, just say it." Everyone responded, "Yes, Sister Lan 11, we will protect you." Lan 11's eyebrows curved and she smiled lightly, "You don't have to be so polite. Rong Si is an old acquaintance of mine. You are his friends. Rong Si's friends are my friends. Besides, I haven't actually done much. The thing is, I just know a little bit about medicine. Sister Lan 11, you don't have to be so humble, we all see your medical skills." The blade said. "By the way, Sister Lan 11, you have been out for so long, will your family be worried about you?" As soon as the question of Blue Whale was asked, Lan 11's smile became a little embarrassed and stiff. Rong Si stopped eating and looked at Lan 11. "They don't care about me, so don't worry about it. I've been away for so long, and they haven't even called me to ask where I've been." Several people looked at each other and looked at Lan 11 with some sympathy. "Those heartless family members, it's okay if you don't stay with them," Rong Si said in a cold voice. Lan 11 looked at Rong Si, pursed her lips, and did not answer. "Sister Lan 11, why don't you just follow us? Your medical skills are so good, you can help us. Besides, if you follow us, no one will dare to bully you." Blue Whale patted its chest and assured. Lan 11's eyes lit up. Just as he was about to say something, Rong Si interrupted, "Lan 11 is from a girl's family. What's the point of getting mixed up with killers like us? Besides, what if she got the Blue Enchantress's medicine? If the true story is spread, will Kincha let her go? If you do this, you will only put her in danger." Blue Whale was shocked by Rong Si's righteous words. He only paid attention to these superficial things, but he really didn't have the space to think carefully, and almost put Lan 11 in danger. The expression on Lan 11's face dimmed again. She glanced sideways at Rong Si's beautiful profile, and for a moment, her heart suddenly felt a little sour. End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuen Suya. Chapter 1184. Chapter 1184, Clearly Feeling Uncomfortable. Rong Si actually didn't want to follow him at all. Saying that is just a high-sounding excuse. If she didn't tell anyone, who would know that she had obtained the true legend of the Blue Enchantress? After all, God knows about this matter, and only a few of them know about it. "Thank you, Blue Whale, I have already made plans for the future. I will go to work at the Imperial People's Hospital in a while. I hope that with my medical skills, I can save more people," Lan 11 said with a smile. Blue Whale chuckled twice, "That's good, Sister Lan 11, you have to work hard. If I have time in the future, I will visit you often." Rong Si listened to the few of them chatting with Lan 11, and ate alone without saying a word. The words that Dao Fian just said struck a chord in Rong Si's heart again. Fanyan is gone, and she will never come back in her life. But no matter what, Rong Si still deceived himself into thinking that one day he would be able to see her again. As long as he saw her again, he would never let her leave again. If he was strong enough, Fanyan would not leave alone in order to protect himself. In the final analysis, all this is his own fault. Rongsi's face was full of melancholy, and his eyes had lost their luster. Lan 11 looked at Rongsi's expression with his peripheral vision and didn't need to think too much. She could also figure out why Rongsi did this. He still couldn't let go of Sanskrit. No matter how hard she tried, Sanskrit was firmly placed at the top of Rongsi's heart. It was like this when she was young. Lan 11 was dazzling and beautiful, and many people wanted to play with her, but Rongsi always guarded the Sanskrit who was isolated and excluded by everyone. When he was young, Lan 11 took the initiative to get close to Rongsi and finally became a good friend with him. However, when the three of them were together, Rongsi cared most about Fanyan's feelings. Lan 11 has never understood the charm of that weird cold beauty that has always attracted Rongsi to protect her. Looking back on myself, although Rongsi's attitude towards her was much better than others, it was still not as good as Fanyan's. Now that she has grown up, she thinks that when she sees Rongsi again, she can work hard to let him see her own light. It turned out that she was still a step too late, and Rongsi's world was still full of Sanskrit sounds. Even if Fanyan has left and will never come back, Rongsi has no preparation to accept other people, and even treats her in a non-committal manner. Rongsi is a smart man, and he probably guessed some of his thoughts about him. So he has been deliberately avoiding himself, and also secretly giving up these thoughts of his own. I'm stuffed. When Lan 11 thought of this, she no longer had any appetite to eat anymore. Sister Lan 11, do you only eat this much? The flame closest to Lan 11 glanced at Lan 11's bowl. She barely moved it, and she didn't eat much of the food. If you just eat this much, you'll be full. I feel a little uncomfortable and have no appetite. Lan 11 forced a smile and said, I'm going back to my room to rest first. Why? What else Huo wanted to say, Lan 11 had already left quickly with a snap. Flame blinked in confusion, wasn't it just fine? Seeing all this, Daofeng, who had clearly figured it out but said nothing, glanced meaningfully at Rongsi and said slowly, it's not that I'm not feeling well physically, it's obviously that I'm not feeling well in my heart. Rongsi didn't answer. End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuen Suya. Chapter 1185. Chapter 1185. It's time to show your boyfriend power. Hanzija and Muniankai's engagement ceremony has been set on a date, and the news has been released. Hanzija has already graduated and is now slowly preparing to take over Han's company. In order to prevent some charming with ill intentions in the company from hooking up with Hanzija, Muniankai packed her luggage and moved into Han's house. Hanzija watched the rows of servants coming back and forth with things in his house, leaning against the door, holding a bottle of Coca-Cola in his hand, the corners of his mouth raised slightly, and staring at the person facing him with a half-smile. Muniankai watched as she walked over. Miss Mu, we're not even engaged yet, so you're in a hurry to live with me. Muniankai snorted coldly, raised her head and looked at Hanzija's smiling peach blossom eyes. The fortune teller said that you, with peach blossom eyes, are prone to attracting bad luck, so I need to keep an eye on you. Hanzija sneered, did the fortune teller tell you that from my assistant to my secretary to my driver, they are all men? Muniankai crossed her arms and said confidently, I don't believe that your entire company is made up of men. Hanzija rolled his eyes, Miss, we are a company, not a temple. We are in the 21st century. Can you update your concept? Cannot. As Muniankai spoke, she walked around Hanzija and walked in. Hanzija shook his head helplessly, with a smile that never disappeared, and followed Muniankai. Hanzija glanced at the servants around him and said, why did you bring so many things here? At worst, just buy them. Muniankai paused, turned around, and looked at Hanzija with a sly smile. Hanzija was stared at by her with horror, what are you doing? I think you're right, you haven't even bought me anything, it's time for you to show off your boyfriend power. Hanzija had the urge to bite off his tongue. Well, what nonsense are you talking about? Is this ancestor so easy to offend? Everything she spent on her body was priceless. Hanzija's family has long cut off his financial resources, so he calls it self-reliant. He is now working in his own company, and he is getting a dead salary. How much money can he have for this aunt's expenses? You all bring your things back to me, they are no longer needed here. Muniankai commanded the servants and said. Everyone stood still and looked at Muniankai in confusion, all of them. Yes, all, move them all back. Muniankai smiled broadly. Hanzija was silently wiping his sweat aside, all. It means that he has to pay for Muniankai's entire net worth. Hey, all the money I saved in the past 2 years has been in vain. Muniankai turned away, looked at Hanzija with a smile, reached out and poked his chest. Master Han, let's go shopping. Hanzija had a dark face, wiped cold sweat, and followed Muniankai like an errand boy. Hanzija feels that if he goes to a fortune teller, the fortune teller will definitely tell him that he will lose money recently. Forget it, he should eliminate the disaster. Hanzija and Muniankai came to a nearby large shopping mall. As soon as Muniankai arrived, she took Hanzija to the most expensive gold and silver jewelry area. Hanzija looked at the rows of price lists and swallowed silently. Hanzija, look, does this look good? Muniankai asked Hanzija, pointing to a bracelet. Hanzija only saw 58,888 on the tag. Looks great. Waiter, wrap it up. Muniankai said to the waiter in a particularly free and easy manner. Hanzija felt like he had been shot in the heart. What can he do? If his future wife cannot be pampered, what else can he do? End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuen Suya. Chapter 1186. Chapter 1186, Who allows you to question a man's physical strength? Hey, this looks good, waiter, wrap it up. This looks good, waiter, wrap it up. This, that, and that, wrap them all up. Hanzija followed Muniankai around the mall for a long time, only to hear her keep talking about wrapping this and wrapping that. Hanzija only focused on carrying things, which was fine. The important thing was that Muniankai also wanted to buy clothes. Shopping for clothes for a girl is already torturous, especially when that girl is Muniankai. Hanzija felt that he had been sentenced to death. Muniankai selected a bunch of clothes and went into the changing room, trying them out one by one for Hanzija to see. Hanzija sat on the sofa with a drooped face, yawning non-stop. This skirt is too short, can you see her when you bend over? Muniankai rolled her eyes, it's not like I don't wear safety pants. Then you might as well wear safety pants. Muniankai. This is too revealing and doesn't look good. It's too gorgeous and doesn't look good. It's too plain and doesn't look good. Muniankai. Hanzija, did you do it on purpose? Muniankai put her hands on her hips and stared at Hanzija angrily. There were so many clothes, but there were only a few that he liked, but Muniankai thought that those clothes were all very nice. But Hanzija only knew how to pick and choose. I'm serving as your advisor. Hanzija spread his hands helplessly. Instead of buying a bunch of them and putting them away once and for all, you might as well buy a few good-looking ones that you like and go back. No matter how much money you have, you can't waste it, right? Muniankai walked towards Hanzija with half-squinted eyes, stretched out her index finger and flicked Hanzija's forehead, and twitched the corner of her mouth. I said that young Master Han, who used to be extravagant and lewd, has changed his behavior today. Or should I say, are you reluctant to spend money on me? After hearing this, Hanzaja was excited, and immediately stretched out 3 fingers and swore, the sky has eyes, and the sun and the moon can be used to judge. I have been diligent and frugal for many years, but your understanding of me has changed to the days when I was in the past, that's all. Your husband has grown up and matured a long time ago. Hey Muniankai snorted, a faint smile appeared on the corner of her mouth, and it disappeared briefly. What nonsense are you talking about? Who said you are my husband? Hanzaja smiled, sooner or later it won't happen. I haven't agreed yet. Muniankai said, turned and left in a coquettish tone, and said to the waiter, wrap these 5 pieces for me. Hanzaja looked at Muniankai's series of actions with a smile on his face. After buying clothes and jewelry, Muniankai took Hanzaja to the supermarket to buy some daily necessities. You just leave it to their servants to do this, why don't you do it yourself? Hanzaja was already exhausted from exhaustion, but Muniankai seemed to be getting more and more energetic. I can keep jumping up and down without getting tired. Hey, I'm tired, let's take a rest first and talk again. Muniankai rolled her eyes at Hanzaja and said, how come you are like a little old man in your great youth? You complain about being tired every day. Your physical strength is really poor. Hanzaja was just about to sit down when the words "you are really weak" suddenly fell into his ears. Hanzaja was so excited that he stood up again, straightened his back and said seriously, you stinky girl, who allows you to question casually the strength of a man? Muniankai met Hanzaja's eyes blankly, and after thinking for a while, she figured out what this guy meant. Muniankai's face immediately heated up, she stepped on Hanzaja, shook her head and walked away, saying, if you are strong enough, follow me. End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuen Suya. Chapter 1187. Chapter 1187. The long hands are amazing. Hanzaja followed Muniankai, and Muniankai came to the daily necessities area. She stepped on her feet and stretched her arms to reach the items in the top row. Hanzaja was resting leisurely on the shelf. He accidentally raised his eyes and saw Muniankai's clumsy appearance. He complained in a low voice, stupid. Then he walked behind Muniankai, raised his long hand, and it was easy. He quickly took down what Muniankai was reaching and put it on the shopping cart nearby. Muniankai turned around and glared at Hanzaja, my hands are amazing, I want to take them myself. As Muniankai spoke, he took out what Hanzaja had just put in, and then continued to reach it on tiptoes. Hanzaja. Is this girl's brain circuit different from ordinary people? Couldn't she see that he was helping her just now? Muniankai reached it bit by bit, while Hanzaja stared at her from the side as if he was watching the fun. Hanzaja really wants to have a bag of peanut and melon seed popcorn at this moment, and if possible, a can of Coke. The girl's face turned red from holding it back, and she moved the object little by little with her fingertips. Looking at the packaging, there should be a thermos cup inside. Forget it, he doesn't want to know the reason why this girl bought a thermos cup in the summer. After all, we can't think about her in the normal way. As a result, just when Muniankai thought she was about to get the thermos cup, because she couldn't hold it firmly, it swung twice on the shelf and fell with a clang, hitting Muniankai's head. Ha 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 ha. Hanzaja's first reaction was to hold his stomach and burst into laughter. Muniankai angrily turned her head and glared at Hanzaja, is that funny? You will laugh to death. Muniankai covered her head that was hit, pouted slightly, and looked at Hanzaja with red eyes. It was already a heavy blow, but Hanzaja was still gloating about his misfortune, which really her off. Hanzaja stopped laughing immediately because he noticed that Muniankai's eye circles were a little red. There was such a big movement just now, and the thermos cup was so thick, it seemed to be really painful when it was dropped. Hanzaja approached Muniankai, so close that he could smell the faint fragrance of each other. Hanzaja raised his big hand to cover Muniankai's small hand, covering the place where she was hit, and his voice softened, "Does it hurt?" Muniankai was still holding a grudge and glared at him coldly. "The weasel is giving New Year greetings to the chicken." Hanzaja choked and coughed twice. "Ahem, cough, cough, wife, I just feel that you. It's your own fault. Silly and cute. Who are you calling stupid?" Muniankai became more competitive and asked aggressively, "Also, who is your wife? Get your paws off, I don't want to marry a bad guy like you who takes pleasure in others' misfortunes." Hanzaja inexplicably felt that Muniankai, who was angry at him at the moment, was particularly cute, and the doting smile on his face couldn't stop spreading. "I'm afraid he's not a jerk." "Okay, okay, I was wrong, I'll hold you and you can go get it again, okay." The tone of discussion, the words of special doting. Muniankai felt soft, but just now Hanzaja's instinctive reaction was to laugh instead of coming over to see how seriously she was injured, which made Muniankai very unhappy. "No, do you think I'm short? Do you still want to carry her and treat her like a child?" Hanzaja has a black question mark face. "Then what do you think I should say? You squat down and I'll step on you to get it?" Muniankai said with her hands on her hips in a particularly powerful and domineering manner. End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuen Suya. Chapter 1188. Chapter 1188. Marrying you is the greatest merit in the world. Hanzaja's face darkened, and he was about to get angry, but the girl in front of him gritted her teeth and stared at him angrily. That look actually made the anger he had not had time to express, like a balloon being punctured. It came out in one fell swoop. He must have owed money to Muniankai in his previous life, so he was caught by her in this life to pay off his debt. Hanzaja looked around for a while, and after confirming that there were no familiar faces around, he knelt down in a good-tempered manner and said helplessly, "Hurry up." The expression on Muniankai's face softened, and she stretched out her foot and kicked Hanzaja's twice. "Forget it, your back is too hard, and I don't want to step on it." Hanzaja stood up suddenly and was about to get angry when suddenly his arms were filled with softness. Muniankai threw herself into his arms, hugged him, and pressed her face against his chest. Hanzaja vented her anger again. "You are so bright and clear in broad daylight, why are you acting like a hooligan to me?" Hanzaja said with an indifferent expression, but the corners of his mouth couldn't help but rise. "Hanzaja, my parents have always said that no one will want me if I have a bad temper." "What your parents said is the truth," Hanzaja interrupted. Muniankai raised her head and stared at Hanzaja with her full eyes. "Why are you so nice to me and tolerate me everywhere? In fact, I also know that I have a bad temper, and I am very willful. The most important thing is, I can't change it. Are you sure you want to get engaged with me and stay with me for the rest of your life? I may become more and more aggressive in the future, and you will definitely find me annoying." Hanzaja was silent for a while, and the expression on his face gradually became serious. But he burst out loudly, "I think you have gone too far now. What does it mean to become more and more aggressive in the future? Can't this girl be nice to him? Hey, do you know how to speak?" Muniankai punched Hanzaja's chest and said angrily, "According to the routine on TV, shouldn't you say it doesn't matter, I just want to pamper you for the rest of my life? What a piece of wood." Hanzaja clutched his chest that was hit and groaned in pain. "I trust Muniankai, you crazy woman, you didn't attack lightly or harshly." Muniankai rolled her eyes. "Can you watch less of those brain-dead TV series? Do you understand the ones that lower your intelligence? You are not smart to begin with. Are you planning to make yourself stupid to death?" Muniankai thumped again. "Say it again." Hanzaja held Muniankai's wrist and said with a smile, "I won't make trouble with you anymore." Snort. Muniankai snorted, turned away, and became angry. The fortune teller said that I lacked virtue in my previous life, so I should do more good deeds and accumulate merit in this life. Isn't marrying you, a tigress, the greatest merit in the world? Hansaja said with a serious face. Muniankai felt more and more uncomfortable the more she heard, and finally raised her fists, ready to have a good talk with Hansaja. Hansaja ran away. Hansaja, stop! Muniankai chased after Hansaja, and the servants on the side had no choice but to run along with him, wiping sweat while running. Oh my God, these two masters are so good at playing. Xia Ying's classes were getting fewer and fewer, and they were ending one after another during this period, so Xia Ying lived directly in Yu Lingfeng's castle and occasionally went to attend classes. Muniankai moved in with Hansaja again, and suddenly, only Tanguoer and Yeziaksun were left in the dormitory. Oh, Yeziaksun and Su Jinsi have established a relationship. They often go out on dates and so on, and only Tanguoer is left alone. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuen Suya. Chapter 1189. Chapter 1189. Do you want to wait for my brother? Slowly, Tanguoer learned to be alone. Moreover, in her major, if she wanted to find a good job in the future, she would definitely have to take a postgraduate entrance examination or a PhD, so during this period, she soaked herself in the library and studied. Tanguoer was carrying a school bag and holding a few books in her arms, walking on a quiet road at night. She had studied all day and was ready to go back to the dormitory to rest. At this time, Tanguoer's cell phone rang and received a WeChat message from Chu Shenxiu. Little Candy, let me show you a good thing. Picture. At first glance, Tanguoer thought it was Chu Shenxiu who had sent a selfie. When she clicked on it, she realized that the person in the photo was Chu Shenming. Chu Shenming in military uniform. Falcon eyebrows, a high bridge of nose, thin lips, and a face that is impossibly perfect in every inch of its facial lines. Tanguoer stared at those deep and firm eyes, and her eye circles turned red as she looked at them. The evening wind was a bit cold at night, and Tanguoer's eyes filled with tears. Soon she was chilled by the wind, and her face hurt a lot. She hadn't seen Chu Shenming for a long time, and when she saw him again, it was through Chu Shenxiu's mobile phone. Tanguoer replied, "Did Chu Shenming go to the army?" "Yes, I just went there a few days ago and will come back in 2 years." After a while, Chu Shenxiu sent another message, "I'm going to go there in a while." Tanguoer replied with a simple yes. She didn't dare to say too much. More importantly, she didn't know what to say. As if he had guessed what Tanguoer was thinking at the moment, Chu Shenxiu replied to Tanguoer, "Little Candy, do you want to wait for my brother?" Tanguoer looked at the string of words sent by Chu Shenxiu and smiled bitterly. Wait. Even if she is waiting, in what capacity will she wait? Tanguoer replied, "I am going to take the postgraduate entrance examination." "Come on." Chu Sheng repaired. Tanguoer secretly set the military uniform photo of Chu Shenming as the wallpaper on her mobile phone. The people she likes are always so good. She tried her best to catch up, but she still felt so far away from him. Tanguoer buried his head alone and walked forward silently. At this time, there were no people on the road. Except for a few people who were in a hurry and who had just returned from the library, there was no one around. Tanguoer walked downstairs to the dormitory and suddenly saw a tall and upright figure standing at the telephone pole. The man was dressed in a green military uniform and stood under the orange street lamp. He looked like a statue of Michelangelo, flawless and handsome, with his own holy light. Tanguoer's eyes widened and he stretched out his hand to rub his eyes to make sure he was not dazzled. The next second, Several books Tanguoer was holding fell to the ground. Tanguoer bent down to pick it up. Not long after, he felt a dark shadow falling in front of him. Immediately, a pair of slender hands with clear joints picked up one of her books. Tanguoer happened to get a corner of the book. Tanguoer raised her eyes and met the man's eyes. "It is Chu Shenming." Tanguoer's eyes were wide open, as if she was petrified, and she stood motionless on the spot. Chu Shenming put the book in Tanguoer's hand, then stood up. His tall figure immediately blocked Tanguoer's sight. Tanguoer also slowly stood up and stared at Chu Shenming without saying a word for a long time. "I enlisted in the army immediately and was going to come back to see Xia Ying, but I found that she was not there," Chu Shenming said expressionlessly, but Tanguoer still didn't recover. Chu Shenming suddenly put down his backpack and handed it to Tanguoer. "This is for you." End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuan Suya. Chapter 1190. Chapter 1190. I really like you. Tanguoer was stunned for a moment, looked at the skullbag handed over by Chu Shenming, and looked up at him in confusion. "What is this?" "Some notebooks from when I was studying." Chu Shenming's tone was calm. Tanguoer's eyes were as bright as stars, and she put the book in her hand into her skullbag, and then took Chu Shenming's heavy skullbag. Tanguoer raised her face and smiled at Chu Shenming. "Thank you, I'm just preparing for the postgraduate entrance examination. With your notebook, I will definitely pass the exam." Chu Shenming's face was cold, and there was no expression on his face. He just said lightly, "Come on." "The same to you." Tanguoer couldn't hold back the excitement in her heart was beating as if it was about to fly out of her chest. Chu Shenming frowned slightly, probably because he didn't understand what Tanguoer meant by "you too." "I heard them say that being a soldier is very hard and tiring, and it's even more difficult for people like you who have been in the laboratory for a long time to adapt, so, come on, hold on." Tanguoer added some additional explanations. Chu Shenming moved his lips. In fact, he really wanted to say that his physical strength, endurance, and perseverance were all right, but when he thought about it, there seemed to be no need to explain, so the words circled around his mouth and became a neither salty nor light. After a moment of silence, Tanguoer felt that the atmosphere was a little awkward, and there was no topic to talk about. Chu Shenming's expression was also unpredictable. That Tanguoer was about to say something when Chu Shenming said at the same time, "I'm leaving first." Tanguoer was startled for a moment. "Well, okay, bye." Chu Shenming frowned. "What did you want to say just now?" Tanguoer opened her eyes wide and met Chu Shenming's gaze. "The moonlight tonight is particularly bright, and a hazy and narrow ray of light shines on the two of them. Under the street lamp, a man and a woman, their figures are stretched very long. There were some insects on the tree that kept making rustling noises." Inexplicably, Tanguoer remembered a word, "before the flowers and under the moon." Tanguoer's lowered hands clenched tightly into fists, biting her lower lip, and her lips began to tremble faintly. "Want to say something?" Having expressed his love, he has also been rejected. Should she say it again? Ask Chu Shenming if he would give her a chance and if he would let her wait for him. As long as you give her a hope and a promise, she can wait forever. Several minutes passed, but the time seemed as long as half a century. Chu Shenming didn't wait for Tanguoer's words. A strange light flashed in his eyes, and finally faded into darkness. "I'm leaving, you should rest early." Chu Shenming turned around and stepped forward with his long legs. His military boots stepped on the bluestone road, making a clear and sweet sound. But the rhythm of the sound disturbed Tanguoer's heart one by one. Chu Shenming. Tanguoer closed her eyes tightly and simply stopped doing nothing. After all, she had been embarrassed more than once, and she was already hopeless enough. She wouldn't mind doing something like this again, even if it was still in vain in the end. But I always regret it in the future. I regret that I didn't say a word today and just let Chu Shengming leave like this. Chu Shengming stopped, but did not turn around. He was stunned in place. Tang Guo'er couldn't see his face and didn't know what his expression was at this moment. Impatient. Dislike her, hate her? Or, something else. Tang Guo'er closed her eyes tightly, her eyelashes trembled slightly, and her words came out with a slight trembling, I like you, I really, really like you, really like you. End of this chapter.